Johnny Bolt, as a teen, loves superheroes. Johnny's mother, who tells him to go to bed. Johnny lies in bed, wishing to get out, while playing with his idealistic action figure. As he reads a comic, his mother tells him to go to bed and turns out the lights. However, he turns it on again by using his thoughts, which surprised him but enraged her. As she shouts at him, she discovers that the light is going on and off on its own, causing a blackout. When his mother leaves, Johnny looks at a toy truck and discovers that he can switch on and off its lights whenever he wants, which makes him quite happy. After that, he turns on and off the street lights in his area, all from his bed. With intense concentration, he can also cause them to explode. On their way to school, Tommy asks Johnny if he's seen the Utopian on the news. However, Johnny informs him that he has new abilities and proves it by turning all of the traffic lights red so he may ride his bike. When Johnny and Tommy arrive at school, Dave, a bully, mocks them, prompting Johnny to blow up his speaker. He also controls the school bell, which scares Tommy. Johnny claims that he doesn't know how he gained his talents and demonstrates his ability to use lightning. Tommy informs him that he is a superhero, which delights both of them. Tommy tells him he wants to be a superhero photographer, and they discuss how the first humans gained their powers after visiting an island. They claim that Johnny's father must be a superhero for him to have powers, which amazes him because he has never met him. Tommy asks Johnny to let him take his photos, which Johnny agrees to let him do. Janice approaches them at their lunch table and inquires whether they are looking at the flare. Johnny and Tommy are astonished, but she tells them she saw him and would want to meet a superhero again. Dave calls her out. She walks towards him and his friends. Johnny hacks an arcade game so Tommy may play, assuring him that he can now escape the town, but his friend informs him that he can even join the Utopians' Union of Justice. Johnny believes it may be his new calling and decides to name himself Electro Boy. Dave approaches them and makes a joke about their virginity. When Janice laughs at the joke, Johnny is insulted and leaves. A mechanic suggests that Johnny's mother acquire a new television. Johnny goes in and asks who his father is, but she doesn't comprehend. Johnny gives Tommy a drawing of what he believes Electro Boy should look like, but the latter is not impressed and offers to assist with the design. Later, Tommy shows him the new design, which is much superior, so they try to replicate it, but it does not resemble the sketch. They put on many layers of clothing until they find one that doesn't seem too terrible. They also train by turning on a whole mall, but a few lights malfunction. Tommy asks Johnny whether he understands how a maglev train works, considering superheroes travel by flying. Johnny tries flying and successfully gets off the ground. The next day, they try to find problems all across town so that Johnny may interfere, but they discover that their town is really tranquil. Johnny walks up to Janice, who is going to go to the pool. He asks her if she remembers that she wanted to meet a hero, telling her that she would meet one soon. Tommy walks up behind him and asks if he is ready, which he says he is. Tommy records Johnny as he prepares to fly to the pool. He flies off the ground and struggles to contain his flight, but he manages to make an entrance, introducing himself and vowing to protect crime in the town. Janice turns around and sees that Tommy was recording. At the same time, Dave realizes that Electro Boy was Johnny, but he denies it. Dave makes fun of him, so he starts losing control and falls into the pool. He lets out a big shock, which starts electrocuting everybody in there. In the streets, cars start going crazy and crashing into buildings, causing many deaths, and a truck even heads straight from the sky into the pool, which contained the motionless bodies of everyone who was in it. Paramedics find that one kid is in critical condition, but might be rescued. While handed a cup of coffee, Johnny electrocutes another man and finds he is not able to control his powers. Tommy approaches Johnny and says that what had happened was terrible. Johnny says that even though he had done it, it had not been his fault, which Tommy understands. Johnny asks what he is supposed to do if he has that superpower and cannot be a superhero. Suddenly, an ATM next to him starts spitting cash. Johnny starts taking more out of the ATM and admits that he had, in fact, caused what had happened at the pool. He tells Tommy to buy him a big bag, which shocks his friend, but he tells him that he was going to leave town and declare himself a super. But on the other side, Johnny is released from Supermax, a prison designed for supervillains, after serving his sentence. His girl, Casey, picks him up and looks like she can't wait. They're already stripping and getting all physical when they get home. Too bad the party is ruined because Johnny's supervillain buddies are here to celebrate his release. Meanwhile, Supermax is holding a charity party for Christopher Matz, or the Bastard, who is the big boss of the supervillain organization known as Network. He is some old, senile guy who lost his touch, but the story goes around that he is still a dangerous guy. One story tells of how a guy named Danny stole some of his money and ran. But soon he finds all his family and friends dead, with their heads exploding. He became so distraught and wanted Matt to kill him, but that big bastard would not grant his wish. Johnny's friends tell him about the next heist they are planning. Apparently, they are going to rob 10 consecutive gem stores. Unbelievably, San Francisco is one of the places in America with a low frequency of events caused by superpowers, and hence, a superhero showing up is not likely. Casey is against this since she told Johnny to get a stable job. Since he won't listen, she uses her powers to hypnotize his friends and make them go home. He still thinks of taking up his friend's offer. He is a bit dry on cash. Heck, he even thinks Casey should join them, as her powers will be more useful. She cautions him about Network and says that they should be living smart and not for this short-term excitement. Johnny is convinced and will turn his buddies down. But next morning, he is on a robbing spree with them. Johnny and his friends attempt to flee the jewelry store on their bicycles. However, they are pursued by the police. They remained optimistic since they assumed no superheroes were there, but unbeknownst to them, the cops had requested superhero assistance. Johnny uses power to all of their cars to break down. They are able to go without incident. The police are waiting for them on the other side of a tunnel, but they do not slow down since transmit allows them to phase past the officers. Casey loses focus at her diner when she notices Johnny fleeing the police. When two customers complain, she shocks them before handing them their beverages. Johnny asks his friends if the theft was arranged by the Network, but they do not respond. He also claims that he does not want to return to jail one day after he has been released. The crooks discover that the cops are coming with a superhero known as Man Mountain. They attempt to keep pushing forward, but Man Mountain slows them down. Johnny shocks him, which only wounds him for a moment, but the other villains also assault him to defeat him. After being struck by bad luck, Man Mountain is bombed by planes and burned by chemicals, immobilizing him. The villains continue to move as they are attacked by another superhero, Rubberball, who even stops to take photographs with admirers. Johnny is surprised by how quickly new superheroes appear every day and attempts to assault Rubberball, but is unable to do so due to his quickness. The villains see that Rubberball is also injuring bystanders, but he remains sure that he will overcome them and destroy one bike. Rubberball attempts to halt the gang as they go forward by knocking down buildings, but he is unsuccessful. Johnny eventually manages to shock him, but it just momentarily slows him down. Even when struck with bad luck, Rubberball is a seemingly invincible hero, even if he kills more people than the villains. The villains combine their powers, which makes it impossible for Rubberball to dodge all the ice, and he is finally taken down. He begs them for mercy, but Johnny electrocutes him, and they crush his legs with a bike. The police calls it the Praetorian. Johnny tells Frostbite that that was exactly how he wanted to live his life, and they say that bad luck worked in their favor. Johnny thanks them for opening his eyes as they cross the Golden State Bridge. However, as they celebrated, they were suddenly teleported out of their bikes and in front of the Praetorian, who told them it was time to seize the day. They are shocked at Praetorian, who simply smiles at them. The Union of Justice broadcasts everything, describing Pretoria as very powerful. The Praetorian informs the crooks that they must prepare for death. The baddies scatter, but Praetorian employs Spark Division to pursue them. Praetorian approaches Frostbite, using an ice blast. However, Praetorian is not deterred and uses his fire breath to completely engulf the crook. After that, Praetorian kicks him high into the air and back to the ground, rendering him motionless. Following that, Praetorian steps on his head and kicks him till he dies, ignoring Frostbite's appeal for negotiation. The Praetorian approaches Kismet, who curses him with misfortune. However, Pretoria reflects this. Fish begin descending from the sky onto him, including a massive shark that attempts to consume him. The Praetorian smashes the shark and announces Kismet's death. Transmit and Johnny attempt to flee, but are apprehended by Praetorian, who kicks Transmit and launches him well over the earth. He then repeatedly kicks him against a vehicle, eventually killing him. The Praetorian approaches Johnny and strikes him in the face. Johnny's attempts to electrocute him by electrifying the earth only make the Praetorian giggle. Johnny declares that he will not return to prison and attempts to flee, but discovers that all of his buddies have been recaptured, defeated by the other Praetorians. Johnny objects that 4 against 1 is cowardly, so Praetorian volunteers to face him one-on-one. Johnny asks him what he wants, and Praetorian asks how long he has been out of supermax, hugging him with one arm until Johnny replies that he was freed the day before. Praetorian describes the incident as pathetic and acknowledges that returning him to prison would be unjust. Praetorian claims that he cares more about the sin than the sinner, and he is aware that he has someone who cares about him. Praetorian warns him not to do anything that would make her sad, and she informs him and his group that they will never have another chance like this. Soon after, Casey comes to pick them up, and it is revealed she used her powers on Praetorian. The guys are grateful for her, and they're not listening to her lecturing them about taking such stupid risks. They want to rope her in for the next job because of her amazing power, but she's not in it since, who knows, Praetorian might copy it. Back home, Casey threatens to call it quits and break up with Johnny if he continues to live like this. She talks about making a lot during one's active career and then retiring like kings for the rest of their lives. She introduces him to a legendary supervillain known as the Heat. He was never caught throughout his career, and he always got away without killing anyone. Nobody knows his identity or if he is alive, but it's like he shows up from time to time and is still talked about through the decades. In fact, he is her teacher and taught her how to survive in this business. Heat is putting together a team to recover something stolen from a client. It looks like there is one spot left on that team, so Casey brings Johnny to meet Heat. Heat takes Johnny and Casey through his underground cleaners and garbage collection, which works perfectly as a cover for his illegal activities because, naturally, people don't want to be associated with filthy places. There are also some past articles on Heat that explain the rise of supervillains during Al Capone's time and the Great Depression. Also, Heat doesn't have superpowers and just relies on his equipment. In those days, superpowers weren't needed, and all you need was to be in the right place at the right time. Other rumors about Heat are that people want to read and believe what they want, and over time, other villains constructed Heat as some sort of ideal. Once in his office, there are also other members he has called for this job. They include Josh and the Diesel brothers, Sammy and Roddy. Their small group is suitable for the job they're going to do because they are unknowns and not affiliated with Network. Although Network plans out stuff for those affiliated, once you get caught, it's your business, but they still get their cut. Johnny and Josh butt heads to a point where Johnny gets so angry and uses his power to zap electricity from the entire place. But he can't touch Josh since his power is to walk through things. Heat continues to explain this mission. It is split into 2 parts. The real deal is in the second part, but they need to complete the first part. Obviously, that job is to rescue a partner who is supposed to be part of this mission, but he got captured. TK McCabe got caught by Gladiator while doing his small-time burglary and will be sent to Supermax. He is very essential to the plan, which is why they need to rescue him. They don't have to worry about money, as their client has already sent them some money to get them started. Making the deal easier is that Matt is leaving his business to a younger subordinate. So it's like Network is taking a hiatus and they don't have to pay a fee, circumventing some rules. The second part of the mission will be explained when everyone is here. It's time to head to Florida. Our crooks make a distraction at a hangar so they can hijack a plane. They fly above the plane carrying TK, and once the altitude is right, the Diesel brothers jump down to fight Gladiator. Sammy got splattered, so it's up to Roddy to fight this tough guy. It's gonna be a long, drawn-out fight since Roddy can generate all the wounds and body parts. During this distraction, Josh dives in to take out all the guards and try to hack his way to free TK. However, the firewall proves to be too tough, and the guards will not tell him. Even more so, the plane is picking up speed towards Supermax, and if they reach there, the supervillains are doomed. There is only so much Johnny can do using his powers to maintain the plane at constant speed. The plane then enters stormy clouds. Roddy manages to knock Gladiator off as they both fall right into the ocean. Gladiator sees some mermaid vision, and the Fish Kingdom wants his help to save them. This is all part of Casey's power to let him see such a dream as she picks up the Diesel brothers. With the plane reaching supermax and the baddies running out of options, Johnny gets desperate as he snatches the control from Heat and dives their plane closer. With the electronics fried, Josh tells the guards that if they want to live, they better tell him the codes or they'll crash and die. Josh, who can pass through stuff, won't. With TK freed, he uses his telekinesis power to levitate the plane. With TK in, Heat tells their plan to break into Union's HQ. Many view it as suicidal, but with Heat offering $50 million each, you bet they'll do it. So apparently the one putting them up to this job is Count Orlok. A powerful supervillain in his heydays, he was captured by Union. Although he escaped, his helmet has been kept in Union's treasure vault. Without his helmet, his power is halved. With superhero Brainwave, who could read minds within a wide radius not in this country, this would be the perfect time to act. Casey feels reluctant to join since she wants to know the final member of the team. So Heat calls Forecast, and what a coincidence he just arrived. With his powers to control the weather, Casey accepts this job. Mats holds another lavish party at Supermax. This is to announce his retirement and to let his successor, Salamander, run network and keep their business going. In the past, Casey was told to approach a drug dealer. Once she does, she makes his head hurt, and he collapses. She reveals that he had not killed them, but had made them crazy. Her group tells her that that was the last job that they had for her. Casey walks up to someone else and asks if they could split their earnings, but the man had heard of her before. He tells her that he will not work with her and leaves. Heat tells her not to hate herself and tells her to cherish her power, working with people who can intuitively understand her. She does not understand, but he tells her that that is the point. Outside, Casey is freezing, and Heat approaches her once again. He tells her that he has work for her since it was something only she could do. Since she had nothing else to do, she accepted. Outside the Union of Justice, Johnny, the Diesel brothers, Heat, Ghost, and Casey work on a hot dog truck. The Utopian arrives, followed by Paragon and Ruby Red. Almost every superhero was there in order to join a meeting. Praetorian is the last one to make it, and he walks in. Heat looks at his watch and says it is time for the operation to start. At a graveyard in Pittsburgh, a couple is interrupted by bodies coming from underground. The zombies make their way towards the couple, but the necromancer makes them move towards him instead. After that, necromancer flies away. The zombies start using bikes and moving in a very large group. The superheroes start moving on their way to Pittsburgh, which means the Union of Justice is empty. Johnny tells the group that he has wanted to visit the Union of Justice since he was a kid. Heat, Ghost, the Diesel brothers, and Casey move forward. Heat tells them that as soon as the superheroes left, they would take down the security system and cut themselves out of the surveillance footage, which would be Casey's job. In Pittsburgh, the zombies move towards people. Forecast and TK are impressed, with Forecast adding thunder to Necromancer's attack. They both see the superheroes heading towards them. Johnny, the Diesel brothers, Heat, Ghost, and Casey start looking for the helmet, trying to focus on Count Orlok. Johnny and Casey remember when they attacked a wine cellar, hoping they did not screw up like that time. They find the magic helmet and get excited. Praetorian says he is not feeling well and is told that the rest of the heroes were handling the necromancer. A janitor asks him if he has the power to fight the necromancer, and he says that he has the ability to hear people even if they are far away. Using his ability, he hears Heat telling the group that they should leave before the Utopian realizes that the zombies are fake. Praetorian gets on an elevator and reaches floor G, where he sees Count Orlok's helmet floating. He hits Ghost with a fire attack, which breaks the helmet. The villains are in shock, while Praetorian tells them that they are idiots because they would never display the real thing there, only replicas. He reveals that all the real objects were in a vault underground. They were being kept invisible by Casey's power. Heat exclaims that it is underground and yells at Ghost to phase all the way there. Ghost goes underground while Praetorian starts throwing columns from the building at them. Praetorian recognizes that there was something in his head, like in San Francisco. By hitting Casey, he is able to reveal all the villains. He looks at Johnny and tells him that he feels like they have met before. They can't fight him. They can't outrun him. Ghost finds the helmet. Meanwhile, Praetorian, in his bid to dispose of the villains, just killed a few visitors with his laser eyes. With Ghost having the helmet, Heat tells him to put it on. He was hesitant at first, but with time running out, he did it and said the password. The next step is to make a wish, and so Josh wishes to be transported somewhere safe. Heat then mentions Black Rock in Romania. In a flash, all of Heat's men get teleported there. Meanwhile, the superheroes are disposing of the zombies. Utopian faces off with Necromancer and thinks he dealt the finishing blow to him. Because Forecast and TK got teleported away too, the effects of the zombie fest stopped. So while our crooks wait for Orlok to show up, Heat tells an old story of Syndicate, a supervillain group consisting of Heat, Orlok, and Mats that predates Network. They retreated to Europe and made their base here when America established the Union. Although they had other recruits over the years, it was obvious they had fallouts and backstabbing, so eventually Syndicate fell apart and Mats went on to form his own network. They rented out this base as a warehouse or concert venue. The story ends because Praetorian is here and freezes them all. But it looks like he isn't the only one here. Matt is too. In short, Praetorian isn't only part of the Union, he is also part of the network. Now that this plot has been discovered, Matt won't stay quiet and will need to protect Network. Of course, having the usual cut won't do, so he'll take all their 50 million. He would also want to make their lives miserable by killing all their closest ones. But since he is going to retire and is not in the mood for that, he'll let that slip. He makes an example by killing off Orlok's butler by exploding his head. Suddenly, Orlok is here to thank everyone for getting his helmet. This Joker is surprised Matt is here, and he gets his head blown off too. Praetorian and Matt leave, but warn them not to tell anyone what happened, or they will kill them. You bet our crooks are really depressed by their failure. They're drinking their sorrows and getting into a bit of petty squabbling. But everyone is pretty much done. It is very heartbreaking for Johnny when he sees Casey really tear up over the failures. She thought this would be it, but it didn't turn out to be so. Conveniently, there is a chapel before them, so Johnny proposes to her and promises they'll start a new normal from now on. Only that night did his old pals kidnap him and do some more minor robbing sprees. Johnny goes along since they think this is a good opportunity to stack up the cash for his future married life. Even the next morning, they were on their robbing spree. Johnny is going to be late for his wedding. Luck has it that Praetorian is here to bust them. Johnny desperately runs, as he cannot be caught today. He thought he had outrun that bugger, but he bumps into Gladiator and gets knocked out. Johnny is sent to Supermax. Casey waits at the chapel and knows something is wrong as Johnny doesn't show up. Noting that his friends are also missing, she gets the picture. Making it sadder is a note from Johnny claiming he has changed ever since he met her, but she notes he never did. She burns her wedding dress and walks away. 5 years later, Praetorian and Gladiator are being charged with some crimes. Meanwhile, Heat is on a roll at some casino, but Salamander smokes him out, along with his accomplice, who can see 30 seconds into the future. After killing the accomplice, Salamander wants Heat to bring in $100 million in a month. Johnny is out of Supermax, and he has the guts to go see Casey. Definitely, she doesn't want to see him again. He tries to be a smooth operator, but it's not working. Casey laments that things didn't work out for her, and she even quit college. This lowly waitress job is all she could get. Suddenly, Heat stumbles in and needs their help. After Johnny and Casey heard Heat's case, they're divided on how to help him. While Johnny thinks they can pull off a job to let Heat pay off his debt, Casey is more pessimistic. She believes it is impossible, and this is just to set an example. She wants to create a fake ID and passport for Heat to leave the country. We see Johnny contacting the old gang for this job. At first, many refused to do it, but he made them change their minds. As Casey tries to get those fake IDs and passports, she tries to brag about her past as a supervillain. But nobody is interested in has-beens. She is going to join Johnny's absurd plan. However, Johnny needs one more person for this job as he arranges a meeting with Gladiator. His reputation has been tarnished ever since he came out as gay. Johnny even blackmails him about releasing those pictures. He will delete all those pictures once the job is done. The job is to steal from Matt himself, now that he is retired and living peacefully and lavishly on an island in Japan where Network and Union cannot reach him. He has opened a casino there, too. Praetorian is with him, and that scandal has sullied the superheroes' names. Hence, Gladiator is on this job to give this ex-comrade some payback. Everyone makes their way to the island and enjoys their personal mini-hidden hot spring. Then it's time to get the plan rolling. First up, enter Matt's estate right through the front door. Casey and Roddy disguise themselves as scientists to propose to Matt some teleportation system project that will make him the greatest supervillain. Of course, Matt rejects this since he is already tired and the best supervillain. The duo then return to the gang, as the whole plan was just to get the layout of the entire place. Casey is using her powers to extract the memories from the head of security for the layout. Their goal is to get Matt's briefcase, but the biggest obstacle will be the superpower nullifying system that is all over the island. Using the same but enhanced version of that in Supermax, the moment you use your superpower, the sensor will detect it and nullify it in an instant. They will split into 2 teams to disable this system. Since they're doing it in style, Johnny has created cool outfits for the team. Johnny tries to reconcile with Casey, and being the smooth talker he is, he admits all the stupidest things he has done are to lose the girl he loves, and that he isn't a supervillain but a liar. Johnny has a plane flying over with a banner that says, "I'm sorry. All is forgiven." Next day, the infiltration begins. A few hiccups as they trigger the security. A ninja squad with guns pops out, and they cannot use their superpowers because it is nullified the moment they do so. With a lot of luck, they manage to disable the system, and now it's payback time as they can now freely use their powers and beat up those ninjas. It seems Casey is the only one not part of this next stage of the plan. She is at the airport waiting for her next flight when she is approached by Mats and Praetorian. They know that Scientist in Disguise is her because they cannot forget her aura. Mats, Praetorian, and Butler Miguel have Casey tied up, telling her they could not believe they thought they could outsmart him. He tells her that people with superpowers were not allowed on the island on purpose. Praetorian notices that Miguel liked Casey and tells Mats to let him have Casey when they were done, but he refuses because he would rather kill her right then and there. Miguel approaches Casey and tells her that her body would still be beautiful even when she was dead. Johnny tells Heat and TK that he believes they are in the right place. They are joined by the Diesel brothers, Gladiator, and Ghost. Forecast joins them by making it snow, which Johnny believes would be a good idea for the fringes on the door. Once they freeze, Sammy uses metallic arms in order to rip the door off. They look down towards the vault, which was all the way down, and jump. Ghost looks through a wall in order to see how many guards there are behind it, and they finally make it through. Johnny tells them that there was one more trap, which detected anyone except for Matt and would rip them apart. However, there was a button to turn the laser off at the end of the corridor. The Diesel brothers get ready to race to the button and take off running. The laser cuts through both Sammy and Roddy, but both of them regenerate quickly and keep running. After 5 minutes, Sammy finally manages to make it to the button and turns it off. Once they all walk across safely, it's time for Heat to use his heat guns to melt the door. He does it quickly, and they finally make it to the briefcase, where all the gold is stored. Heat tells them the system will restart soon, so they start moving out. Casey is injected with sodium thiopental, which is a true serum. Mats asks her what her superpower is, but Casey simply asks him in return what he was so afraid of, telling him that he was surrounded by art in order to look sophisticated, but he is just a douchebag that is empty inside. Mats does not allow Praetorian to shut her up yet because he wants to know everything while the drug still works. He asks her why she is there, and she tells him that they are there to steal from him, which her friends were doing right at that moment. Mats gets angry and has Miguel bring up the cameras. There, they see that the superpower suppression unit is rebooting and all the guards have been taken out. They look at the underground facility and see the villains with the briefcase, so Mats tells Praetorian to teleport down there. Praetorian shows up, telling them that they were as stupid as they looked. The Mats talk through a PA system, asking if they really thought they could get away with it and asking why they would try to steal from him if they knew who he was. Johnny makes fun of him, telling him that he is now too old to stop them. That makes Mats very angry, But the power suppression system reboots. Mats tells Praetorian that he can now kill the group. Johnny tells Gladiator that it is now his turn to handle Praetorian. However, Gladiator takes his time while Praetorian punches Johnny in the face. Gladiator tells Johnny that he has been waiting to see him get hit. Even without powers, Praetorian seems to be taking his time defeating the villains. Miguel hands Mats a sniper rifle. He says that they need to be reminded of what true fear feels like and aims for it, telling Miguel to turn off the suppression system. He aims it at Casey, whose eyes begin to bleed. However, she uses her own powers to knock him back and fight against him. Praetorian defeats all the villains, telling them that they are all worthless without their powers. Gladiator finally thinks that had been enough and tells Praetorian that he could not believe how he had fallen, seeing that he was Matt's bodyguard. Praetorian tries punching him, but Gladiator grabs his wrist and reveals his face, which frightens Praetorian. Praetorian tries defending himself, but Gladiator is clearly much stronger and sends him flying back and slams him into the ground. Once Praetorian was defeated by Gladiator, Heat asked if he was dead. Johnny tells Gladiator that he was not supposed to kill him since they never did that, but Gladiator says that he had only left him with some brain damage. Johnny says they should now leave. Matt is wearing Casey out and tells her that he is lonely and bored. He says that he believes his life was better before he was rich, but does not want a bunch of punks to steal from him. He tells her that he will use her corpse to taunt her boyfriend. Finally, Casey is unable to keep Mats from inside her head, and it explodes. Mats asks Praetorian to bring him the villains, but gets no answer. Suddenly, he gets a call saying that Praetorian is down, as well as his mansion. He says that was impossible, since he had been in his mansion the whole time. However, Mats turns around and sees that the brush strokes on his painting were different and sees that he had made Miguel's head explode. Casey waves towards Johnny, who was on a small boat and was brought on board. She hugs Johnny, but Heat tells them that they need to leave, so they take off. Mats is in his meditation cave, where he realizes that if she had used her power in the mansion, she would have been detected, and he realizes that everything has been an illusion since the airport. His meditation guide approaches him and tells him that he looked as if he had been tricked. He gets angry at being surprised and makes his head explode as well. Ghost tells Casey that she really had guts in order to do what she had done, as Gladiator smiles. Heat also says that she followed the rules and calls her a great supervillain. Johnny tells her that she was the only one who had been able to go through all of that with her friends. Both of them hug and tell one another that they love them. Casey tells him that they could now retire, which Johnny agrees with,